This prompt looks fine, but this one gets you 10 times better results. The difference here isn't just length, it's structure. And after going through Google's entire 8-hour AI course, I finally understand the logic behind why certain prompts work and others don't. So today, I'm saving you the time. Over the next 8 minutes, I'll be breaking down this exact structure along with 4 other critical frameworks Google packed into the course that will actually change how you work. Google's course mainly covers 5 things: what AI actually is, how to work with it without blindly trusting it, a prompting method that genuinely works, how to spot AI bias, and how to stay current as things change. The prompting section alone is worth more than most paid courses I've seen on the topic, so I highly recommend you stick around for that one. Now, of course, I can't fit every lesson from this 8-hour course into one video, so if you want the complete training and an official certificate from Google, you can actually put on your resume or LinkedIn. I'll leave a link to Google's course in the description. Module 1 covers the fundamentals of AI, and understanding these concepts explains why AI behaves the way it does, and why your results are sometimes incredible and sometimes completely useless. Artificial intelligence is basically any computer program that handles tasks we usually associate with human thinking. Whether it's your email filtering spam or your phone predicting your next text message, that is all AI running in the background. Most of this runs on machine learning, which is a system that learns patterns from examples. Think of it like training a photo app to recognize your dog. You show it a few hundred photos, and eventually the app learns the visual patterns well enough to spot your dog in a completely new image. Generative AI takes this further by creating new content instead of just recognizing patterns. Large language models like Claude or GPT process text and generate text back. You give them input and they produce output, whether that's drafting a proposal, explaining a concept, or writing code. But this creates a dangerous habit. We assume that because a machine wrote it, it must be true, and that is exactly the mistake Module 2 teaches you to avoid. Module 2 introduces what Google calls human in the loop, and it's the difference between outsourcing your thinking versus collaborating with a tool. Imagine you need to write a job posting for a new role. A hands-off approach would be asking AI to write the posting and then copying it directly onto your page. A human in the loop approach means you ask for a draft, review it against what you actually need, adjust the requirements, maybe ask for a different tone, and then make the final call on what gets published. For a job posting, the worst case is you attract the wrong candidates. But apply that same blind trust to something like investment decisions or contracts, and the consequences scale up fast. 2 specific failure modes to understand are knowledge cutoffs and hallucinations. Every AI model has a training date, and it genuinely doesn't know anything that happened after that point. Ask about something recent, and it has no information to draw from, but instead of saying, "I don't know," it often fills the gap with something that sounds plausible but is completely made up. That's a hallucination. Sometimes hallucinations are obvious, like AI confidently describing a historical event that never happened. But sometimes they're subtle, like citing a research study that doesn't exist, or giving you statistics that sound real but are fabricated. Those are the ones that cause real problems because they're hard to catch. Now that you understand what AI can and can't do reliably, the question becomes, how do you actually communicate with it to get the results you want? Because the difference between a useless output and a great one usually comes down to how you asked. In Module 3, Google breaks down prompt engineering into techniques that actually work, and I've organized their approach into what I'm calling the PACE method: provide, ask, queue, and evaluate. The first step is providing context. A prompt like, "Give me some marketing ideas," will get you generic suggestions. But a prompt like, "I'm launching a productivity app for freelancers, my budget is limited, and I need marketing ideas that don't require paid ads," gives the AI actual constraints to work within. Context can be your situation, your audience, your limitations, or the goal behind what you're asking. The more relevant background you include, the less the AI has to guess, and guessing is where things go wrong. The second step is asking specifically, and this comes down to 2 things: the verb you use and the format you want. Different verbs produce completely different outputs. Summarize this report gives you a condensed version. Compare these 2 reports gives you analysis. Turn this report into action items gives you a task list. You're working with the same source material, but the verb you choose completely changes what you get back. Format matters just as much. If you want a timeline, ask for one. If you need pros and cons in a table, or short punchy sentences instead of dense paragraphs, say that explicitly. The third step is queuing with examples, technically known as shot prompting. Zero shot is when you just ask a question directly, but because these models are pattern recognition systems, they work much better when you give them a pattern to follow. Say you need to write bios for your team website. Instead of writing a long paragraph describing the tone and length you want, just write one bio yourself, paste it in, and tell the AI to write the rest like this. That is one-shot prompting. The AI sees the pattern and mimics it perfectly without you needing to explain a thing. Usually, providing 2 or 3 examples is the sweet spot. It gives enough context to lock in the style without confusing the model. The fourth step is evaluating and iterating, which means treating prompting as a back-and-forth conversation instead of a single request. Nobody writes perfect prompts on the first try, including professionals. The process is simple: start with a draft, see what what you get, identify what's missing, and refine your ask. One technique I picked up here is that once you've refined your way to a great result, you can ask the AI to write a single prompt that would recreate that output from scratch, which shows you what actually mattered in your iterations and helps you prompt better next time. Finally, for anything involving complex logic, you need chain of thought prompting. This basically means asking the AI to show its work before giving you the final answer. Instead of jumping to a conclusion, it forces the model to reason step by step, which drastically reduces errors. For example, don't just ask, when will this project finish? Ask the AI to list the tasks, identify the dependencies, calculate the sequence, and then tell me the finish date. That step-by-step breakdown works way better than asking for the answer directly. And you can apply the same approach to troubleshooting technical problems, working through calculations, or analyzing anything with multiple layers. So now you know how to get good outputs from AI, but what happens when the AI itself has blind spots you don't even know about? Module 4 covers AI safety, and while the course packs in a lot of different definitions, there are two main concepts you really need to understand, as they explain the specific ways the model will fail you even if your prompting is perfect. The first is quality of service harm. This happens when the AI works great for one group of people but barely functions for another. A classic example is early voice assistants. They were trained mostly on American English, so they struggled to understand anyone with a different accent. It was the same software, but the experience was completely different depending on who was speaking. The second is representation harm, which is when the AI reflects and amplifies societal biases. If you ask an image generator for a scientist, you will mostly get men in lab coats, but if you ask for a receptionist, you will mostly get women. The AI isn't making a conscious judgment here. It is just mirroring the patterns in its training data, but those reflections reinforce stereotypes instead of challenging them. Both issues trace back to who builds these tools and what data they're trained on. If you're making decisions based on AI output or building products that use AI, understanding these failure modes matters. And this actually connects to the last module, because the tools that exist today won't be the same tools 6 months from now. Module 5 covers how to stay up to date with AI developments, and this matters because the tools you rely on today won't be the same by the end of the year. Look at the progress. A year ago, keeping a character consistent across images was a nightmare. Now, tools like Nano Banana Pro do it automatically. A couple months ago, AI video was a glitchy mess. Now you're generating cinematic videos with native audio.
That's the good stuff.
If you aren't paying attention, you'll be stuck doing things the hard way while the rest of the industry moves on. However, staying current doesn't mean trying to catch every single headline. Google's advice is to just pick 2 reliable sources and stick with them. For newsletters, I recommend Ben's Bites for daily updates or the Rundown AI for quick summaries. That is enough to keep you in the AI loop without overwhelming you. The PACE method works for most prompts, but there's a whole category of complex tasks where you need more advanced techniques, things like multi-step reasoning, structured outputs, and prompt chaining. I did a separate breakdown of Google's dedicated prompt engineering course, which goes way deeper into those advanced methods. That video is on the screen right now. By the end of this video, you'll have a systematic approach to AI that most professionals are still figuring out through trial and error. Technology is evolving so rapidly that the specific biases and limitations we see today might be completely different by next year. These advanced techniques can handle everything from complex data analysis to multi-step creative projects that require the AI to maintain context across multiple interactions. And if you want the full experience of this course and get the official Google certificate for your resume or LinkedIn, I've linked the complete course in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.